Yeah, when we are seeing the world descend into savagery, chaos, untold mayhem everywhere. And I think that this is consonant with the nature of the last yoga, uh, the Iron Age. Now, I want to ask, is there really something we can do about this free fall into the abyss other than to help people raise their awareness? I want to think that the wonderful worldwide educators seem to be out to reform prison conditions. So, what do you say about this assertion, Duane?
Well, Charles, I would say you could help by paying off your old parking tickets. Some people think it's the deficit, you see, whatever, but really it's all choice. People keep choosing. They see what's going on. Yeah, most of the world sees what's going on, and they relate. Things are exchanged, ideas. Again, ideas. A lot of ideas are exchanged all over the world, and especially on just use the media groups like Facebook and Twitter and everything else that's like that out there, YouTube, etc. And all these ideas are exchanged, but who's really doing something about it? In other words, you might say we cannot interfere with what the world is deciding. That's not the idea. We're not here to interfere. This is where people, have done certain things, and all of a sudden they want to be saved from what they're doing. I get it. We all do. But at the same time, life is what it is, and we're all experimenting with what life is. No matter what we're told or what we have or what information, etc., we're still experimenting with ourselves, with the environment we're in, and the whole of life, which is, all the environment life is, etc. So, uh, is there an answer to this? If we're alone, we are the effect of ourselves. If we're with others, we are the effect of ourselves and others also. So, is there one big answer? Well, this is what the world is looking for, aren't they? This is why they have all these conferences and whatever. They just recently had this global warming conference and whatever. And what do? They just sat there and talk like they do every year. And what is taking place in the world? It keeps getting worse because they really don't face the issues. They just play around with what they want to pretend would be so. Is there a difference? There's a huge difference. So it's like talking about building the house and actually building the house. And so that's what they're doing. They're talking about building the house, and 100 years later, they're still talking about building the house. You see? So they haven't done it yet, and they're not interested in doing it because these are people that realistically, they're afraid to do anything. See, it's that fear. They're afraid to take the risk. And this is where those that wholeheartedly step up sincerely, 100%, they are the real risk takers. They're stepping up in all this confusion and nonsense and simply doing something and demonstrating and presenting something real. All we can do is present it. So, yeah, it's a very interesting situation we're in. And when you look at the world order, I mean, you're talking about 8 billion people plus the animals, the birds, and don't forget the bugs, okay, the pests and everything else that are out there. They are awareness too. They are deciding certain things. And, because their environment is polluted, the animals, the birds, the fish, the bugs, and whatever, they are unconsciously having to go along with what the people on the planet keep deciding because they don't have the means to do anything else. They're trying to, redo things and keep things going, keep the water clean, keep the honey okay, even just survive getting back to the nest with all the Wi-Fi. But at the same time, it's very difficult. So they're just like Sandra's experience that she shared in the Skype. Uh, and that is where she saw, she was shown a giant chain around the world, a choker chain around the world, And yeah, that's the consciousness. It's choking itself. It doesn't recognize itself. So what we're trying to provide is this recognition. What the world is looking for is, just like Jesus being the Savior, for someone to come in and fix everything from what they've done. And then guess what? Let's say everything was fixed perfectly. It was all perfect again. All of a sudden, voila, everything is perfect. There's no pollution, there's no nothing. But yet everybody has the same stuff that they've always had. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to stop and enjoy and just live the perfect life here on earth as an example? No, they're just going to start all over again until it's that way again. So, it's all choice, isn't it? So people have to learn to recognize the choices that they're making. And again, each one of us as a person here, you're a person, I'm a person, and all the others, they cannot save the world. I cannot save the world. There's no such thing. But they like the idea. The public likes the idea. Most of the public likes the idea that someone will save them. And I get it. We lived with our parents when we were young, and our parents saved us from a lot of things. When we did funny things or when we did anything, they were there for us. Well, now we're kind of on our own and doing things, and who else is there that we can imagine that will save us? So we'll imagine somebody saving us, and no matter what we do. And we'll think of that at times when we're in danger. Oh my gosh, God save me or whatever. And even people that don't believe in God, when they're in trouble or hanging with their couple of fingers on the cliff, 1,000-foot cliff, all of a sudden they're going to start praying to God. They're going to try anything, aren't they? After they've lived their life and they've ended up exactly because of all the cause and effect that they've decided, which is understandable, because that's why we're here. We're here to experience until we do start to figure out. And I see myself, no matter, this has been my whole life, no matter where I'm at in this life, I'm just starting. And I really like that, actually, always being new. So, yes, Charles, if there is an answer to all of this that's going on, as the person, or we keep repeating the same things over and over again, all of a sudden, it's kind of like being stuck in the mud, the tire is spinning, and we're really getting nowhere accordingly. And so I see it in the doing. And this is what I'm always trying to tell people. This is what I'm saying to you and the Africans, etc., and anybody, and that is that keep it going, because again, now how long has it been since Miriam's group has departed? And it's going to turn into years. And see, I've seen it. And so as you let these things go, they're going to go further and further. Yes, other people will step up. But again, as I see people come in, I always suggest, especially unique people, I always suggest to do something, start a Skype or whatever. Get them right away. Because if they start lollygagging around too much, then that's just exactly what they do. And they will just hang around. And it won't benefit themselves. Then they'll wonder, well, gee, where's the benefit or whatever, or I'm too afraid to speak or do something or whatever. Well, it does take courage. I was like that too. I remember when I first did my first introductory lectures, for years, I was very nervous. And again, for most people, it's not something that everybody does. And Paul was the same. He was reluctant. Gail actually helped push him out there a little bit. He wanted to do things a certain way, just have personal discourses. That's it. Send them to each person. And that's it. Voila. Well, people wanted satsangs and whatever. Then he had to be more creative. So he created the satsang courses, etc. And so the world is a lot bigger now, a lot stranger, a lot more difficult, huge challenge, etc. Coming at you from every which way just to survive. The 50s and the 60s were the fun times. This is now, it's struggling to survive. And will we survive, etc.? And how long will it be? Well, again, things are coming around very fast. Ask those people that got their house lasered in California and other places for the longest time. This isn't nothing new. This has been going on for many, many decades and beyond that. It just seemed to be that where there were natural fires or this or that or whatever. Actually, those two power plants about 3 years ago in China that said it was a gas explosion. No, they weren't. They were from satellite lasers. They were lasered, okay? And so by the cabal. So, what can be said about any of this, Charles? So, yeah, yeah. So I see it in the doing. Decide to do something that makes sense. And above all, you might say, if we're going to do this in a certain way and use description, it is the new you to become more aware. And at the same time, you do whatever. And the personal self is there. Yes, your personal life is basically already set up. And each person defines their personal life. And again, when the person is really sincere, the fun part is to look at yourself. What really comes first? Is this something that you're just doing? Because life knows. And life is, in a way, it is not concerned because you have the right to choose. So those people that want to stay in creation, whether they're conscious of it or not, they have the right to decide that. Life is not concerned like the sun shining. All it does is shine. But when the individual wants to be consciously aware, as is the whole of life, then it provides a way for it to do that, and it can see when the intent is there to do so. That becomes the difference, and more so than just wanting it or wanting to be free. Again, these are really personal ideas. They really are, with the little self. Oh, I want real freedom. And why is that? So that I can do whatever I want with my personal self. That's really the idea. And so to sincerely see and to be able to recognize what life is, there is a difference. And don't worry, the personal self will still be there. But at some point, you're going to recognize that, wow, I don't need that little self. I don't need to drag that little self along anymore. I can be totally free with the all is. But that's a huge position to take on and to be able to recognize and to handle. So in the meantime, as the individual is going through the process, I suggest to do something, even if it's taking the images that Ava and I create and sharing them on Facebook, or creating a Skype in some particular way. This is why I created the Wonderful Worldwide Educators, more so than just a new presentation. The Nations United Universal University, the homeschool, and anything else that we've created, universal surfers, etc., because these are all avenues that can be touched upon that provide something for people to relate to become involved in, because most people, they do not have the awareness or even the imagination, because they've been so robotized in their education that they've become so literal, they can't figure out what to do with their lives. And so these things are provided, and little at a time we share. You can step up and you could be part of this and learn to be a little creative with whatever makes sense. And at the same time, take your time with the New You session, read the books, and learn to get a better idea of what the isness life is, because that's everything. And don't worry, your personal self will still be there, but actually it'll be better off because it's not being so overly concerned about itself anymore. It's moving along to where, everything seems to be working a lot better. But it's not going to be that there's a guarantee with that, because you also have to deal with the outside world and the ups and downs and this and that. We have to deal with a lot of things, etc., and issues all the time, whether it's in the world or life itself or, our personal side. It's many, many variables. Now, all of a sudden, you're becoming more aware of what's going on, and at times you really don't want to see it. This is where a lot of the world, it knows what's going on, but it don't want to see it, because the individuals involved don't want to see their involvement, actually. And this is why Joni and the corporation attacks us, whatever. She's not concerned about any type of, we'll just use the idea truth or whatever. She's only concerned about what she's doing, and as people become more aware, they're seeing what she's doing, and that's really doing, and she don't like that, nor does the governments or anybody else in the world, the cabal. So that's why they try to keep us down. But as there's more of us and the awareness becomes more real here, through the new you and presenting what we do, well, again, it's like the rays of the sun. You can sit there all day long and swing your arms and try to, knock them from here to there, but you're not going to touch them, you see? So again, I see it's in the doing, Charles. Always in the doing, stepping up and having the courage to do something real.